Okay, so everyone has done that. Everyone is reached at this step, or any problems are there? What's the problem, Ankit? Yeah, I'll share a video link for creating the new project again. Don't worry. Okay, so I think Ankit, please repeat. I'll share a video link for you. You please continue with the lesson now. Cool. Okay. So this was the basic app creation and all. So let's quit this, and I hope everyone has cloned the project that I asked for. So let's open that project. Please open the project that you cloned for the repository, and let me know when everyone is done, or if you face any problem. Okay, so while you are loading the project that we cloned, I'll show you what we are planning to make today, what app we are planning to make today. So if you know, it's a simple calculator. The idea was I got this idea. You must have seen these apps during Valentine's Day and other stuff. So the app is quite simple. It has a starting navigation splash screen, and then you can add names of any two persons. For example, if I add my name only, and then you can click this button, and this will give you a score, uh, love score on some basis, some function I wrote. And there's a button toolbar here, and you can share result. So it will open a window of all the sharing platforms that you have on the phone. And also if you want to calculate again, you will be directed back. And there's one more navigation bar. One is about us screen, which is dummy stuff is there, and one is database. We'll not be covering the database part today. So this stores all the data and shows us, and on clicking on any of these you can again share the result to anyone you want. And there's one button with clear database, so it will just get cleared. So we'll be covering just the first part, navigating and uh, giving the result and sharing it and creating this navigation bar. So that was the app that we are planning to build. I hope everyone has opened the project. So is there any problem? Anyone can reply. So everyone is cool, or there's some problem? If you need time, please let me know. So yes, Anshul already sent you the link. Okay. So while your projects are loading, I'll uh, show you what the project is all about and what are the different files here. So let's start with from the bottom. So from the bottom you can see there's a package named Gradle script. So Gradle is basically the build tool for Android. Build tool means we configure it for building our Android application. We provide it all the information that what dependencies we are going to use, what is the API level we are going to target, what are the different activities we have, and what are the which is the launcher activity and all the other stuff. So basically, it compiles the app, it builds the app, and then gives you the final APK. So for any Android project, there are two build files. One is the project level build file, and one is the app level build file. So there are two files because in any Android project you can have multiple modules. For example, uh, in your app Gradle file you will have dependencies for all the libraries that you're going to use. So for if you can separate your app into two. One is database and one is the view, what UI you are going to present. So in the database dependent in the database module you do not need the dependencies of view. So that's why we can separate the modules. So that's why there are two kinds of um, Gradle files. So project level Gradle file contains all the global dependency requirements. Here you can see there is a versions and version constants. So these are the name of the dependencies and with their versions. So for example, using Kotlin version, we are using 1.3.71 or navigation version or Arc Lexel 7. We'll be referencing these versions in the app level file. And okay, this much is for this. And in app level Gradle file, we'll apply all the plugins that we have installed or that we need in the Android Studio. Then there is compile SDK version. So when you downloaded your Android Studio, you also must have downloaded the SDK with the API level. So here we are using 29 API level. Build tool version is there. Two things that we set this minimum SDK version when we were creating the project. So we set it to 16. Target is 29. This version code, whenever as we talked about that, whenever we sent update to the app, then we have to update this version code. That's how the Play Store knows that there's a update in the APK. And then other things are not required right now. These dependencies are the libraries that we are going to use. These are the links for them, and these are the versions that we put there. So we are referencing them here. For example, Kotlin dependencies and constraint layout dependencies. These depend using this implementation tag downloads those dependencies in your Android projects. That's why I asked you to build this project previously, so that it will take time to build now. So that's all. Anyone has a problem with the build files? Okay, cool. So after the build file, there is resource folder. Resource folder takes care of all the resources that we'll be needing in our Android application. Drawable folder and mipmap. These two are the folders which stores the images or similar resources. For example, launcher icons are there. So this can be in the form of PNG, JPG, or XML also, because XML ones are the vectors. Images can be in the form of vectors or also normal JPG and PNG that we use. So these are the vector images. And okay, one more thing. If you have Android Studio 3.6, then there is a toolbar in the top right, and this will show you the code. And on the right side of it, this will show you the code with the view that it is building, the UI that is building, and the third one you will have just the UI. So you can switch between the tabs, and if you have Android, older version of Android Studio, you will have it here in the bottom left corner. Cool. After the drawable and mipmap where we store our images file, there is, well, let's go to values. Values contains three files. First one is colors.xml, which stores what colors we are going to use. These are just variables. For example, for using this color, this blue color, we are going to use the name as color primary, and for other color accent we are going to use this name in the other layout files. So this is important because whenever we're trying to change the theme, for example, we are trying to change the theme from blue to red, then we have to change the color in every screen and every layout file. So instead of that, we just change it here, and then all the references will get changed. So this contains the colors. Similarly, there is string file. Don't go for the tags right now. We'll see them when we develop the app. Then there is string file. Same, there's a string and there's a variable name for that. And there's a style. Yeah, style is important. So style covers the entire theme. We can make our theme here using the other resources, for example colors and strings. So we can name it anything, and then we can use all the resources. For example, for this particular app theme, I'm using color primary as this, color primary dark as this, and color accent as this. So when we apply directly this theme to our app, so this all the contents will all automatically imported to that, and we do not have to set these colors separately. So that was values. That's clear. And the third thing is layout file that will contain our UI for every screen. So right now you'll be seeing uh, something like this. So okay, so everything is clear right till now. Is there any problem till now, or can I proceed? No problem. Cool. So okay, so every layout file contains views. Ignore this right now. For example, any tag like this is XML language. So this is all cool. So any starting tag, for example, this is constraint layout. So constraint layout is kind of a layout which helps you to let's leave it, change it to linear layout right now. Yeah, so linear layout, you can see it right now. So linear layout just sets for all the views in a linear fashion, either horizontally or vertically. So and all these are the properties which we can see here: the Android property, app property, tag, layout width sets the width of this entire linear layout, and layout height is there in context, uh, references to the what activity is linked for. We'll go to the activities later on. Now there we can put and as many views as we want inside it. For example, there's a text view, you can see it here. Okay, so layout width again there, layout height is again there. So there are different values for this. For example, if you can set the layout width to match parent will set its width to the view above in the hierarchy of this, and height is there. Then text will, these are all normal. Text will set the text to it. For example, here IIT Janta was the text that I set for it. These are of no use, right? So you can remove all the code that I just removed, and this should be our final layout file. So everyone has done that. Please let me know if I'm going too fast or too slow. So everyone is has done that. Cool. So one more thing that I wanted to tell you, that in linear layout we can also set the orientation. Orientation can be in the vertical or horizontal, as this is only the linear layout. So we'll go with the vertical layout line right now. So this should be our initial layout file. I hope, as no one is replying, I hope everyone has done that. Also, instead of writing code here, you can also use the draw layout here, and just switch to the last tab on the top right corner. Design tab is there. So in that you see the UI that you created, and you can directly drag and drop all the UI elements that you want. For example, if you want a button, you just click it, take it from here and drop it here. It will create a button here. As this is a linear layout, so this is automatically align them in a linear layout a linear fashion. So this button, and every view on clicking on any view, you'll have all those attributes related to that button. For example, there's ID of that button, the layout width that we just set in the code, the layout height is there, visibility, and all other stuffs are there. There are so many attributes there, so you can set them. But right now we'll just go with the basic one, and let's add one more text view. And you can set the content for the text view here. Anything dummy text. Okay, so this will give you a layout like this. Now you can check it by running. Okay, for running any app, there's a green triangular option in the topmost toolbar. So you can, if you want to use your app, connect your app mobile phone with the USB with the USB debugging on, or if you want to use the emulator, I hope you must have created the Android virtual device. And I'll use the Android virtual device right now. Let's run it. So whenever um, you run an app, then Gradle will build all the files that were in the Android app project, and then it will install the APK on your emulator. It will take a little bit time right now. Till the till then, if there are any doubts, please let me know. I know for those who already know these stuff, this is quite boring. So, but I'll go with other things first. But please reply yes or no if you are done with the stuff, or if you have any doubt. Yeah, it will install the APK down directly. After switching the USB debugging, connect your phone with the USB cable and turn on the data sharing, and then run the app from this button, triangular button that I just showed you. That will install your app APK on your phone. So it's installed on my virtual device. So as we just created the UI, it's looking just similar, and this is the toolbar. It takes its name from the app name that is set. So this is how it looks right now. I hope everyone is has reached here. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's move ahead. Of, so we just saw what are all the folders in resource folder. Now there's a Java generated. Java generated contains all the temporary files that Gradle generates on its own. So we should not touch this because this will create errors. If you open anything, that will also show you the advice that don't edit it. The next folder is manifest. Manifest contains all the kind of index. It is kind of index of your app. It tells Gradle what all the applic activities that we are going to build. What are the different screens that we have here? Which one is the launcher activity? What's the app's name? What is the app's theme? As you can see, we are checking the theme here, which we built in the style theme.xml. And what's the icon for this, what's the label that we just saw on that we just saw here. This is the label. What's the icon and other things. So this is manifest. It acts as an index for the app. Now next is the Java folder where we have all our Kotlin files, which the program which yeah, this one is the main activity. So there are two terms, activity and fragment. I'll show you the difference first. Okay, so activity, as you can see, they are mainly the control view controllers, which allow them to hold their own state. Basically, activity is kind of a box which have several views in it, several dependencies in it and several contexts in it. So whenever we create an activity, it will have its own view, and it will have all on its view controllers and on click listeners. Whenever we click on a button, then activity knows which button has got clicked and what to do on that click, and all the other stuff the activity has. So fragments. Okay, this is activity can be reused as a whole. So for a given activity, you cannot swap it. For example, the given views of an activity cannot be used to fill another view. While on the other hand, there is another thing that fragment is kind of a template. So for example, okay, we know that every app has a navigation bar. So whenever we click on that navigation activities, the navigation view is entire activity, and whenever we click on that different options on the navigation bar, then just a little part of that screen changes. For example, when I showed you, one second. Okay, so in our love calculator app, this is not just a second. Yeah, the activity is kind of a container, and fragments are the templates that switches in and out. For example, if we click on the about us fragment, then there are so many text views and there are so many added texts. Text views are there, images are there. So this all they all have their different views. So whenever we switch to a different option, for example, let's switch to profile, then uh, all those views, that image views, text views, those are getting reused. The just their sources, the images are getting changed, and the text are getting changed. So these view creation is not happening again in case of fragments, but in case of activities, a different activity always have a new view. So it is preferred that we go with only one activity and we just swap fragments in it, so that the time will get reduced, the app process will get reduced. So this is the simpler way to know this. You'll know this when we do the coding. So right now we are seeing the main activity which the Android creates by default. So asked you to read 2 3 blogs on classes and other stuff, classes, functions, and all in Kotlin. So I hope that you're familiar, but even I will go with this. So every class in Kotlin will start with a class name and the name of it. This colon implies to what is the parent class of this, what it is extending to. So app compactivity is the library class that Google has created. So we'll be using these functions, and if we want to override any of these functions, that we can just override our content in it. So for example, there is a function in app compact activity class on create, which helps us create the view of that activity. So we are overriding it and then setting our own view. So this line, that set content view, uh, sets the layout file that we created here, activity main.xml, to this current particular activity. So whenever this activity will be created, that view should be shown on the screen. I hope that is clear till now. Any error? Okay, there were some errors. Let me see. Okay, I haven't worked on React Native, so I don't know about that. Soam can answer that. Okay, stack screens. Okay, R. Actually, all the layouts and all the resources in Android, whenever we use them in those Kotlin files, then we need a reference for that. So there's a R file that Android creates, which have indexes for all the files by the name of their IDs. For example, activity main, the R files R just stands for the resource file. Resource file have all the IDs of all the resources that we have, so we can directly use it from there. Whatever resource we create, it adds an ID in the resource file. We can directly refer it from there. Okay. So okay, and one more thing. This is the argument that is passed to it. The save instance bundle. Okay. So whenever we press home button on our screen, then suppose there's some stuff is going on, we are filling some form, and whenever we press the home button, then what happens is these activities got crashed. And I know that these are on the recent screen, but these activities crashed by the OS. So all the data that was there, that is saved by OS, Android OS, into a bundle. And whenever we again press that apps button of the app screen, then it returns this, or the entire data that was filled already there in the form of a saved instance state. So then we can use the entire data again, and that's how the autofill forms are working in Android. So that is information. Okay. So I think all the folders, packages I covered. Java generated. Yeah. So is there any doubt till here? So now we can start with the app, right? Working on the app. Any doubt with any file or any folder, any package? Okay. So first we'll start with the Splash Boot launcher screen that we created. So for reference, I wrote a blog. I'll just paste the link. You all can open this blog right here. We'll follow this one for creating the splash screen. Okay, so splash screen, every app has a splash screen. Just I mean the first time we open it, but the main aim of that splash screen is not just to decorate the app, or just to use your 2 3 seconds, but the main thing that is going on is it helps in loading all the important information. For example, loading database data from the server, loading or authenticating the user in the background. But the apps do not want to wait, let the user wait by seeing a progress bar, so they just put a splash screen in front of you, so that all the important data is getting fetched from in the background. So one of the ways in which we can, or in which I used to make the splash screen, was just to add do not go for the code, just add a sleep. For example, a delay. I just show the screen and put a delay for 2 second or 1.5 second in it, and then start the another screen. So that is not going to do the requirement why it was required, that loading the uh, important information and other thing, because uh, we are creating its own view. So as we seen that stat content view links the view to the activity. So whenever we create a view, the view is created in form of layer. For example, first of all, the base layout is created. Then if there is images on there, then it is created. Then if there is a text box on there, then that is created. So always the view is created in layers. So that view creation always takes time. So so if we add a view to this splash screen also, then its own creation will take time. So it will not serve the purpose, but it will add more delay to the process. So it is the wrong way to add a view to the splash screen. So the right way is to remove this view. So let's start with the right way. Involves 3 steps. First step is to create an activity without the layout file. Okay, so first of all, we'll go to this one. So let's come into Android Studio. For creating a new activity, you will go to the Java folder. Then in the first one, which contains your main activity, then right click on it and new, and then activity. For activity, you can select empty activity right now. Okay. Yeah, if you create a vector within the drawables folder, then it Android creates its own variable resolution sizes. But if you add an image from outside the app, then you have to put all the different resolution images. Otherwise, it will behave differently on different devices. Okay, so we'll just name it splash activity. And that we talked about, we do not need to generate the view file, the layout file, so we'll uncheck this box. And also, okay, Kotlin is the language, and just click finish. So this will add the project to Git. So the Gradle project will sync and it will add this to the manifest, which is acting as the index. So you can see that there's a new activity that is created here, splash activity. And now the syncing is done. Now in the splash activity, as you can see, there's no layout file right now. So but there's one problem that whenever, okay, in the manifest, every activity has some intent filters in that. For example, the main activity that we built previously with two text views and a button, here it is said that it is the launcher. The launcher is the one which occurs in the process the first time. So we have to make a splash activity to the launcher activity to make it the first activity. So let's just copy this intent filter from this, paste it in between. So now the splash activity has become the first activity of the app, that whenever we start it will encounter this. So let's just run the app right now. You will face error because we haven't set any view to it, so it will not show anything. It will give an error right now. Let it build. So as you have seen that in the first step to create an activity without layer XML file, we have done this step, but we have to add this thing. So what this line is doing, let's first copy it. Okay, so in this line there is start activity. Start activity is a function which navigates from one activity to another activity, and it takes intent. Intent is the manager which navigates the app from one activity to another activity, and also passes data between activity and also fragments. So for example, right now for this intent, you can, if you want to see how what is the function definition of this intent, you can click Control B. It will take you to the internal files. For example, here is the function intent, which is there in the library function. So it takes two arguments, the package context and the class where it want to go, and then it calls another function that, let's not go that deep. So it needs a context and the destination class. So here we set the context. Context is the context of this activity. As we discussed that every activity has its own context. And the next activity where we want to go is the main activity. So the syntax is just name of that activity and the class.java. Okay. So whenever we do this, okay, let's see our app. This it's shown nothing because we didn't set any layout to it. So now if we run our app now, then it will automatically transfer the layout to the next view whenever the next view is ready. So that's how we are saving time, or showing the splash screen only till when the next activities view is created, all the layers are getting created. So it's getting installed like this for some time, to like this, and then the main activity is there. So we just save the time of view creation of this activity, and right now we haven't add anything to the splash screen, so it's looking white right now. So let's add something. Everything is clear right now till now. All of you are following. So for adding the view, we cannot create a layout file as we discussed. So there's another way to do that. That is there in the app. So let's create a drawable, which drawable vector. So just copy this and right click on drawable, make a new drawable resource file like this, name it splash background, root element. Okay, let's leave it like that. Okay, and just paste the code from here. You can switch the code and design view. So right now it's giving an error. The error is that, okay, so what is this doing? This drawable is in the form of layers. As we discussed, every view is in form of layers. So we are having a layered list in that. In that there are two items. First item is the background color that we're going to use for the splash screen. So let's we are using the background color that we set in the color file, that is color primary. So you can see we set this color here, the colors.xml. Now the second thing is the logo that we're going to use. So on the second layer we are adding an item that is having a drawable, that is the image of uh, named logo, which is not there right now. And the gravity thing, uh, hello? Yeah, and the gravity thing decides where on the screen the view would be positioned. For example, it is right now the gravity is center, so it the image, this item will be in the center of the screen of the parent layout, that is the layered list right now, that has the complete layout right now. So it will be in the center. So now we are facing an error of not the resource not found. Let's create the logo. Again in the drawable, create a new. Now we have to create a logo. We will go for a vector asset, so it will create files for all the dimensions on its own. So let's create a vector asset. Now Android has a lot of symbols inbuilt we can use. So you can click on the clip art and it will open a menu. Right now use just for example anything like art. Mm, okay, there's one icon favorite, we can use it. Just click OK. Now it's of black color, so you can change the color like this, and you can name it logo. Cool. Now let's click next. Finish. So now it will create a logo here, logo.xml here, which contains our just this that we created right here. Now we can reference in our splash screen's background this logo as this item and set its gravity to the center. So now we have the complete UI for that splash screen right now. It's just simple layer list, so we are creating the layers on our own, so it will not, the Android will not have to do that. So that's how we are saving the time by not creating the separate layout file here like activity main. Cool. Now it's time to link this. Okay, any problem till now? Okay, wait, do we need, could you show the code once again? You can open the blog, Sandesh. There's code there. You show the change you did in android.manifest file. Okay, I'll do that. Okay, Savni, yeah, in android.manifest, yeah. So in android.manifest, I just shifted this intent filter, which was previously uh, in main.activity. So to create this splash activity to be the launcher one, I just copy paste and cut this from here and then add it for the splash activity, and just this. Okay, so now I hope everyone is done with the splash background that we just created. Now it's time to link it to the splash activity. For that we have to follow the third. Now every activity has its own theme. So if we do not set theme for an activity, then it takes the theme of the entire app, which we set in Android manifest here. But we can have different themes for different activities also. Now let's create a theme for the splash screen. So our themes are created in values styles. Let's open this. So this is the theme that entire app is using. Now we'll create another theme. Just copy paste this code. Now we name this theme as splash theme, and the parent tag is Android has its own themes, but we can create a particular properties of that theme. For example, we are using a theme no action bar, which will remove the top bar action, which has a name, and just we are adding a window background, which we just created, the splash view. The splash background that we just created, we are adding it to the screen's background. So in that way, we are not creating any other view. We are just creating the bottommost layer, that is a background, and Android will not take time to build that. So we created the theme here. Now what we have to do is just to apply that theme to the splash screen. So for that we'll go to manifest, Android manifest, and after this name tag we'll apply this theme is equals to the theme will we just created a splash theme, so we'll just apply it to here. And now when we'll run the app, we'll be able to see that view that we just created. It's running. So any problem till now? Okay, let me check. And right now it's launching, so that it's the splash screen that we just created, and then the next screen is automatically uh, navigated through the splash screen. So that is how a proper splash screen is created without any layout file, and just setting an intent right here so that we can navigate to the next activity as soon as it is created. So that's for this splash activity. Any problem or any doubt in splash activity, so that we can proceed further, let me know. Header color, yeah, we can set it differently, but right now when we apply theme, so all the header colors are generally the primary colors that are here. The header color primaries are the directly the header colors, because in styles.nml, the theme that we're applying, we use this, we reference this to the color primary are the header icons, header color. So if we want, we can set it differently for every activity by applying a different theme. Yeah, we don't need to define. If you want, you can, but you don't need to. For further application, how would sound be added to splash screen? Yeah, for adding the sound, we would have to create a layout file, but for that will create the what we can say, the delay. Sound is not generally added to the splash screens, because there's no use of that there. Any other doubt? Okay, so we can go next. So next is now we can start with the would be modern Android development. So modern Android development includes Jetpack libraries that I was talking about. So first we will see what Android navigation component is. So navigation between destinations. So right now as we see that we use this intent thing to navigate between activities, but when we have a lot of navigation options, for example, we have a navigation drawer and we have profile, we have logout, and all the other options are there, and we cannot write intents for each one of them because it will be a lot of code to write. So we just need some tool for handling that all to us, and we can make that thing simpler. So for that, Android navigation provides us a tool, that navigation component. I'll share a blog with you right now. You can open this blog. We'll be using code from this. Okay, so navigation is kind of this. For example, you have a splash screen you can see on the screen, and then you can navigate to either to some login screen or some chat screen. Then you can have different flow. That is the navigation flow, how our app can be on how the activity will go flow will glow. And this is the modern set of libraries that Google provides us. We'll be covering one of them, that is here, navigation. It contains libraries for architecture, UI, behavior, and foundations. There are a lot of them. So we'll start with navigation right now. Navigation component mainly consists of three parts. First is the navigation graph, which we just saw here. This is a navigation graph, how the different activities are act as nodes in here. And the next second is the navigation host. Navigation host is the fragment that was talking about, that can act as a template, so these different screens can come in and out of that fragment. So there's a host fragment, we can say it. And there's a nav controller which controls all these different activities, that which fragment to come in that host, or which should go out, and other things. So let's create a navigation right now. So for using navigation, we have to have that dependency, the library dependency in a gradle file. So we already have that. You can check it here. uh, Open the build out gradle file of app module, and there we have this navigation dependency already there. You have to add that, and that will give all the functions that we can have for navigation. Okay, so that is already there. Now let's create a navigation graph in the navigation graph for our app. So for that, so the navigation files are there in resource, because there's a resource file. So let's create a new Android resource file. Let's name it me nav, and the type of the resource file is navigation. So let's click OK. Now this will give you a blank screen like that. Uh, this is the screen where you will have all your fragments which you can add. So for adding a fragment, we can click this plus icon which is having a new destination. All the fragments are called as destinations here. So if we have already created fragments, then that will be listed here. But if as we don't have any fragment right now, we'll create new. So for any fragment, let's name that game fragment for our first screen, where we'll take the names of two person, and then uh, go to the next file. Just uncheck this include factory call methods, because those are some complex methods we do not need right now. Let's finish it. It will create a fragment and its layout file. Just add it, and let Gradle sync it. Let's just create one more fragment so that we can have some flow in the app. Let's name it result fragment. Again, do not need the factory methods. Let Gradle sync it. Okay, yeah, Android XDR, it works in the same way. So now we have two fragments right here. So now in the game fragment we'll be having two text views to take the names of two person, and then in the and a button, and in the result fragment we'll be having the result. So let's create the view. Just double click when you are in the navigation designer, then just double click on the fragment. It will take you to the layout file of that fragment. So let's just delete. There's a component tree in the left bottom left. Just delete the existing text view here. And as we need to edit text. Edit text is the view which we use when we want to get input from the user. So you can search in the palette here, edit text. If you want a plain text, so we can drag it here and place it here. So just id, change this edit text id to first person name, as we'll be taking the first person's name here. Layout width should be wrap content, whatever the content it has. Wrap content again. Input type hint. Yeah, hint is the one which is shown to the user in light gray color behind the edit text. So for example, and first person's name is the hint that we are going to put here. Style, and okay, we do not need to set the text to this because we want input from the user. So let's remove text from it. It will not show anything right now. So it's showing a hint and the first person's name, and whenever we'll click on it, then the hint will go away, and then we can input add whatever input that we want to give. Okay, so that's how we can design it. And in the code we can see, you can switch to the code tab. We are having a frame layout and edit text here, and all the attributes that we set there, it's there. Let's go further, add another text, edit text there for the second person's name. As you see that they are overlapping here because we do not have a particular layout type here. A frame layout is just empty container which can have any kind of any kind of view inside. So as we already know about linear layout, so just let's just put a linear layout in there so we can align them vertically, all the edit text and buttons. So let's just type linear, it will show you many suggestions. So just go for the first one, linear layout compact. Layout width should be match parent, layout height should be match parent, and then just wrap or the below to bottom to edit text in the linear layout. So you can see now that they are side by side right now. So because this is because we haven't set the orientation to the linear layout right now. So let's just set the orientation to vertical. So now they are one of the other. uh, let's just change the properties as we changed it for the first person's name. Set it second person name, and remove the text thing and add hint to it. Hint can be just and uh, second person's name. You can see there are two text fields that we created. Now let's add a button so that we can switch to the next screen. Calculate button there. Till now, any doubt? Okay, good. Good. So we'll add a button in between these two edit text right now. So just open a Reddit and type button. Let's just go for app compact button. Material button we'll be using afterwards. App compact button. See, layout width should be wrap content because we don't want a complete width button like this. We just set it to wrap content, and let's add text to it. It should say calculate as of now. This much will do, and add an ID to it. ID is important because whenever we'll put actions to the on click of this button, so we want the data of these fields and views in our Kotlin files, then we'll use these IDs to reference these. So for example, ID is calculate button here. So right now our app is the view is created. So one more thing that's not looking that good, so let's just set the gravity. Gravity will set all the layouts in center if you want it in center. If you want in center horizontal, this there are many options in here. You can see, for example, there is center horizontal, center vertical. Center vertical will just set it in the between the vertical axis, but let's just go for center right now, so it will in the center of the screen. So it's like that right now. Person one name, person two name, and calculate. So is everyone okay? What is that? Let me, which one is this? Okay, this you can add a fragment inside a fragment also, that will be doing next, because we want an host fragment where we can swap all the screens. We'll use this right now. Any other doubt? I'll be using that, so I'll show you next. Now as we created layout for this, let's go back to navigation file, and now we want a host fragment for this. So this all the fragments will be there in activity main. That is the main activity for it. Let's go in activity main.xml. Let's go to the code tab. Yeah, so we are having in activity, yeah, activity main, just like this, uh, text view, a button, and another text view. So right now we just need a host fragment where we can swap the fragments. So let's go back to the blog and create copy the code. We all did all these steps. Okay, so now next is creating the navos fragment. So let's copy this code, right? Control A. Now this, yeah, remove the first. Yeah, no, this is it. So the merge label merge. This is the fragment that you are asking for. We added a fragment in here. It has a ID. The name is important because this is the name which tells Android navigation component that this is the navigation host fragment. So the name should be like this: Android X navigation fragment, navos fragment. Width and height are according to us. nav host fragment, yeah, default, because if we do not set any navigation graph to it, then it will automatically take the first one and set it to it. So default nav host will do that. And nav graph is linking this fragment, this nav host fragment, to a particular nav graph that we just created. So it's giving error because the name of our nav graph is main underscore nav, it's not navigation. Let's just change it. Not, it's giving the view that we just created. Okay, this is done. So everyone is clear till now. Um, cool. So we'll continue. Okay, so now when we run the app, we'll see this screen instead of the that we were seeing earlier, because now we have added this fragment as the starting fragment for the activity that it built. So we'll be covering just the navigation component today, and we'll go for the rest of the libraries next in the next session. The app is building and installing in the emulator. As you can see, there's a splash screen, and the first screen that comes after that is the game fragment that we just created. You can click on it and you can enter whatever you want to. And then the second one, like this. So the calculate button is not doing anything right now because we haven't add any action to it. Okay, so right now we have created this. Now it's time to add navigation to it. So come back to the main underscore nav. Let's, for adding action or adding navigation, we just need to click on the starting fragment, and there's a dot here. Just drag it to the destination fragment. This will add an action. So this action has some properties. For example, is id, its destination fragment, which is result fragment. You can add animations in here, whatever animation you want to have. And the next thing is pop up to. So whenever we go when the app processes and the navigation, we it stacks all the fragments that it creates. For example, if you uh, go on the game fragment first and then the result fragment, then the game fragment is on the stack. So whenever we will press back on the on our phone, then it will go back to game fragment. So this pop up to decides that up to what up to which fragment it has to remove the uh, fragments from the stack. And then if we just set it to main underscore nav, then it will on pressing back on the result fragment, it will exit the app because we do not have anything before game fragment, and the splash screen is already finished. So we'll come out of the app, and but if we do not set anything, then it will go back to game fragment. So if we have a series of fragments in them, then we can decide where or we can override the back button behavior here. Cool. So that is all right now. Now we have to uh, tell a Kotlin file that we have to navigate from game fragment to result fragment using this action on what trigger, but something should trigger this action. So that trigger will be the on click of calculate button right now. Cool. How to center a line? Okay. Yeah, the toolbar can be customized in programmatically. Okay, so let's continue with the blog. We had just added an action to the navigation bar, and now we have to trigger that. Okay, so come back to game fragment. So in the game fragment, just copy this code. For the game fragment Kotlin file, you have to go to Java, and there's the game fragment. Now open it. Right now you are seeing on create view, which is the main function for view creation of fragment, and there you can set it. So right now it's giving error, two errors. First of all, let's just import. When you hover on that navos fragment, this is the inbuilt class of navigation library. You just click alt and enter. It will import it here, navigation on fragment. And the second error it is giving is navigation button. It is the id that we created in the fragment game. So what id did we set? Yeah, we set the id as calculate button. So we have to go same thing here, and just again import it by using alt enter. So now what this code is doing is it's setting an on click listener. So whenever the button will get clicked, this function will get called inside, which we write inside this. So right now what we are doing is we are calling the navos fragment, and then we asking it to find its controller with passing the context to it, and then calling the navigate button, and the id that we are passing is the id of the action that we created. So you can see in the navigation file, the click on the action, and this is the id. So the id is same, the action game fragment to result fragment. So that is the id that we're using here. So we not, the main benefit of it is we do not need any intents right now. We do not need any bundles to pass data. We just need to have that id here. We can simply navigate from one activity to another. So let's just run the app right now. Okay, whilst building any doubt till now, their performance by other company. Okay, so now app is getting built. Okay, it gave some error in build. So for checking errors in Android Studio, there's a run tab here. Timing out for waiting will process local. Just a second. Let's run it again. Let's just check what is the error. Void Android X app config user. It's not giving the button reference right here. Okay, we cannot add it here because it. Okay, okay, 1 second. There's a mistake. This is a function which will create the view, so we cannot use a view which is the button before its creation. So it will have to override one another function in the fragment class. So just press Control O. It will open all the functions that this fragment class is having. So search for on view created. Yeah, this is here on view created. So now we have to paste a function in here. It was giving error before because there was no view created, where the views created by this line. So the as there was no view created, so we cannot reference the view. So now let's try this. App is installed, and now we have the first screen. Now we can check the calculate button, and after pressing the calculate button, it's going to the result fragment. So that's how. And as we haven't placed any pop-up to behavior at all, so on pressing back it will go back to the game fragment right now. So that's how we can navigate using actions. So any doubt till now? Okay, no doubt. Okay, so that block covered everything right now. Okay, cool. You can use these blocks afterwards if you want to see the code again. I think that's uh, enough for today's seminar. If you have any doubt, you can ask right now. In the next session, we'll see how to pass data between activities and how to use different other libraries of Jetpack. If you have any doubt right now, please let me know. And I'll send the blog links to you, or you can just any material recommendation for beginning FT. Okay, you can follow Code Labs, Google Code Labs. You can search for it online, and it has awesome courses on it. And the similar courses are on Coursera. These are same. If you want video resources, then you can go for Coursera, and if you want just textual resource, then you can use Code Lab. There you can find many. The first one that you can use is I will type Android Kotlin fundamental. That is the code lab that you can use. Search for it on Google, and there are 10 to 12 modules are there. You can that starts from the basics, so you can surely get started from that. But you should have the knowledge of classes and some concepts of object oriented before it. If you Yeah, I haven't used React Native right. I've used Flutter once, which does the same thing for writing code, but for both iOS and Android. So it's your own choice if you want to use React Native or Flutter or something. But I like Android because the tool that is provides it quite developer friendly. So writing Android using Kotlin, I prefer that. Yeah, course for Udemy. You can search for a course on Udacity. uh, it covers the same content as the course that I just mentioned, Android Kotlin Fundamental. The instructors are from Google, so they cover everything from basics. Any other doubt or question? Okay, I didn't scroll the chat. Medium has got some pretty cool article. You can also okay, cool, cool. Okay, thanks. There are pros and cons of both of them. Okay, okay. Any other doubt